Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. This is the fourth Folsom City Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you for coming on. We have McKenzie McKinny, owner of Offset Marketing, and our own Devera Handy. She's account manager for Folsom City Lifestyle, and she's got a massive background in marketing and customer relations. So we'll talk through some of that today. But first, I just would love to hear a little bit about you guys and, how you came to be. And, well, I mean, let's not get that literal. We all know the answer to that question. But how your business started, a little bit more about you. Why don't we start with you, McKenzie?
Yeah, sure. I started actually in media and journalism. And when I ended up leaving that industry, I fell into marketing. Design is where my passion and experience is. And I worked for an agency, loved the work, but ultimately ended up leaving when I had my daughter. And I wanted to do my own thing and really bring something to this community and not work outside of Folsom. So I started Offset Marketing for me and my family and businesses in this community, and really to help small businesses in particular with their branding.
Love that. And you skipped over a big part of your history. Like I just learned today, you're Air Force,
Yes.
Public Affairs for Air Force.
Yes.
And I know that we had talked originally, we both worked for the same television station.
Yeah.
So your background is tremendous.
Yeah, it's kind of across the board. Started in television, broadcast news, and did production. Did that for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. And then was in marketing while I was also in the Guard. So I did the Air National Guard as public affairs for about 4.5 years. And then I've been in marketing overall for almost 10, mm-hmm. and doing my own business for 3 years.
Love that. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Devera, what about you?
How I came to be with Folsom City Lifestyle.
Yeah, and your background and kind of what led you here. And
my background is kind of all over the place. I've done a little bit of everything for a whole lot of people. Mm-hmm. I really do enjoy the personal side of marketing, getting to be out kind of on the streets, dealing with people at events, giving people that personal touch and explanation of what your business is about and what value you provide to the area or them personally.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we loved about you and wanted you to be part of our team for, is just that the difference in background you have and the connections that you have in the community, and your children are big parts of the community. And it's so refreshing to see you live, work, and play here just like I do. And McKenzie, you too. But we're going to talk a little bit today about marketing and maybe some of the things that businesses do really well, and maybe some things that we can help businesses with. So McKenzie, in your opinion, is there something that you see businesses consistently doing well here in Folsom?
I think really the community. There's such a strong, just in-person community, and especially after, I know we're several years from COVID now, but still after all of that, I do think that just like the in-person part is really, really strong in this mm-hmm. community, and I think that's super great.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Our men's and women's issues that just came out in May and June, it was so hard to find the right people to represent, because I could have put 50 business owners on each of those covers. There's so many incredible human beings here in Folsom. Mm-hmm. What about you? What do you think businesses do particularly well?
The same thing. Folsom is very community and in person, and I think it's two sides of the same coin. I see businesses do it well, and I see businesses that flop because they're not in the community. In Folsom, you have to be the gym guy or the mortgage girl or any of those things. You just have to get out there and show up to the parades, to the networking events, to all of the things. We also have a lot of businesses that are really good at the local sponsoring. We have the rodeo coming up, and if you look at the rodeo, almost every single thing that's sponsored is sponsored by a local business.
Absolutely. And we try to sponsor everything. We're sponsoring the upcoming hometown parade, mm-hmm. and we sponsored the ice rink. Certainly can't sponsor everything, but we try to do as much as we can because it's so important. Let's flip that on its head a little bit, McKenzie. Anything you see businesses struggle with particularly?
I think the overall just lack of strategy. I think that's really, really hard. being that marketing and design really has become so accessible and probably overdone in some way, or oversimplified, I should say. I mean, the example I like to give all the time is showing up on Instagram every day is not a strategy. And if that's what you're going to do, fantastic. It's a longer journey. But I think that is where it becomes really hard, especially for small businesses. As a small business owner, I've experienced, and I'm sure we've all experienced, like, you wear so many hats, you do so many things. Where do you have the time to do that? I mean, and also just realizing that maybe at some point you need to farm it out to a professional, and that's okay. And that's literally why I exist, for, to help small businesses in that way. And I think that could be just maybe a better understanding of what marketing and branding can do for you if you're doing it well.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of local businesses, and we struggle with it too, right? We're a small business as well, and we've been around a year and we grow, and sometimes you got to spend money to make money. And that's really hard concept for people to grasp because they don't have a lot of it as a small business.
Right.
But I think investing early on in your business is the most important thing that you can do. And investing in your brand is something that we preach all the time. You need someone to see you 8 to 11 times before they make a decision to use you.
Yeah.
So when you're doing something like print or any other medium, television was the same way. They need to see you at least 8 to 11 times before they make a decision. And they need to see you with consistency. They need to know that's you every time they see you. And I think that's part of the thing that you help with, right, is developing a consistent brand, consistent logo, color scheme, that type of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I find a lot of people come to me, especially small businesses, and they're like, I just want a logo. Like, I want to do it on the cheap. I just want a logo. And my answer to that is I can't do that for you, because that's completely doing you a disservice. Like, if you don't have a logo, colors, typography, a photography style, icons, you're thinking about your website down the line, then you're wasting money. You're not getting what you paid for, and you're going to waste money. And I think that is definitely hard to hear, I think, especially as a small business when budgets are tight, and when it's such an abstract kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, what
It's
is
not
a
tangible.
brand? Exactly. It's not likes on social media. That's not something you can track. But what I like to tell my clients too, if you have a logo that you made or someone else did, and you picked a pretty color palette that you really liked, it might work in some. For example, if you pick 4 different greens, you have 0 flexibility. You have 0 options. You go to make your website and you can't do anything with that. And then you're going to get discouraged and not follow through on your own brand. So your social media is going to look different. Your website's going to look different. You're just going to do whatever's in the moment. And you're never going to achieve that 8 to 11 times, because your average person is going to see those different things, think they're different people, so that you can't, you're not building that consistency.
Yeah. I think that's so important. I mean, we have a whole, we are a franchise, but the franchise group has, brand standards. So we're very specific about how and where we use our logo and what it looks like and the colors and, the look and feel of the magazine and luxury print, that type of thing. But it's so important. And it really is hard for a small business owner because, you have an agency, but there are also many people that just will come to a business owner and say, you know what, I can handle your social media. I can do this. I can do that. And you might have relationships with some of those people. So it's like then you start piecemealing all of your little projects around, and then they're not consistent again. You're like, well, I'm doing all the right things. I've hired all these people, but then it lacks consistency because it's not the same person.
Right. I also think that, like, the brand guidelines, something I offer with every package that I do. I mean, it's a must for me, no matter, honestly, how much you're paying. It's a must. But I often find that, especially small businesses, they think that is a corporate level that they don't need or can't achieve.
Interesting.
And I would argue that it is ultimately far more important for a small business to have all of those pieces put together.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
It needs to be cohesive.
Yeah.
Otherwise, who am I buying what from?
Yeah. And ultimately, it makes it easier on you. Once those decisions have been made and you go make an Instagram post, you know what you should be doing as opposed to guessing.
Yep. That's smart, and that's a great point. And I would also echo that, it's super important because you're hoping as a small business to become a big business, and in most situations. I mean, certainly there are some businesses that just like being small, but you know, our goal is to grow, and most are. So why not start with that?
Yeah.
All right, Devera, what's the most common thing you hear from our prospects and our clients when it comes to maybe something they don't know or something you have to educate them on? What's a common theme?
A big question I get asked when going on meetings is how many people actually buy from a magazine. And I have to explain to them, kind of like what we were saying, is that 8 to 11 touches. They might not buy from it the first time they see the magazine, but if they're looking for a photographer or a marketing to redo a brand, they're going to think, oh, where did I see that ad? And again, it's why you want to be recognizable. It's why you want your branding to all be cohesive, because now they're going to flip through the magazine and, oh, there's that photographer I wanted to book, or there's the lady that's going to redo my branding for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really smart. And I always tell people that Google gets a lot of credit for the things that we do. Everybody at this table, we give Google a lot of business, right?
Yeah.
Because they see their brand, right? And they remember it, and they see it over and over again. And then when it's time for them to make that decision, they're probably going to Google it. And then Google is going to get credit for that lead. And, you know, you need to be on Google. You need to have your SEO on point. And in some instances, SEM makes perfect sense. But ultimately, it's us that's driving that lead. You know, a recognizable brand, putting it in front of the right eyeballs, that type of thing. You offer branding sessions, what do you call them, classes?
Yeah, so I do branding workshops, but I also do more one-on-one branding audits for like a one-on-one meeting with an actual business.
Okay. So if I were just a new small business owner and I wanted some help, what is the process I follow when reaching out to you?
I always will give a free, audit consultation, kind of see where it is you want to be, what you're looking for. And then once we have that established, we talk through actually, what it is you have for a budget. I like to say, some budgets are too small, but no budget's too small. Like I'm absolutely into working with any type of budget. I think marketing should be accessible to small businesses in that way. It just means you might get less, but doesn't mean you shouldn't have help. So we talk budget and timeline, and then we go through, and I think something that would make my branding unique, maybe not from other agencies, but from, say, if you were to hire someone on Fiverr, is we do the whole thing. I mean, I offer 3 to 4 unique concepts. Ultimately, when we're done branding, you get over 50 finalized files, and the style guide, the brand guidelines, the patterns, the icons, all of it. And that's just my base offering. But, if it's not something where you're not really sure where to go or where to start, or you think you have a logo, but you kind of like it, seems like it's working, also an option to do the branding workshops. It's less about, say, designing your own logo, and more about, now that you have something, how do you apply it? How do you make it consistent? What pieces are you missing?
Okay, one more thing that I think we should talk about, just because I want to pick your brain a little bit. When we're talking about big name logos, like big brands, right? We all try to aspire to be a big brand. We're all growing. And some of them do it very well, and some of them maybe do not. I was thinking the other day, I was in the airport going to Kansas City, going to corporate, and I saw a Brighton store. What are your thoughts on Brighton? Sorry to put you on the spot, but I want to see what you got.
Yeah, for sure. So I think Brighton is actually a very good example of why, when you look at just a logo, it may be hard to see the brand beyond it. So if you look at just the logo mark that is Brighton, it is just a word. It's just got that one heart. It's a very feminine, delicate type font. If you pull that out, it's going to look very much like one certain industry. You can kind of tell that it's a fashion industry. It is a classic scripted font. It is, it holds up well. It's very simple. You can use it. What's nice about it is it's flexible. You can use it wherever, and you're always going to have that full identity. But if you look at the brand as a whole, the photography, the products, the website, I would say that not all of that doesn't immediately scream classic as the logo does, but they work together. They complement each other. And I think that's what's important about developing the entire brand in itself. You can have a logo that looks nice and clean. Maybe it's very like a sans serif font and it's clean and it's kind of modern and it might look very corporate. But if you're a boutique shop, that's not going to match with you. That's not going to ever really work. And so I think they do actually quite a good job of, they've created a brand and a logo for themselves that's classic and timeless, but ultimately flexible. And it's always flexible, especially in that type of industry where you got trends happening all the time. They've got new products coming out all the time, and they always look like their brand.
Nice. So what would you grade them?
They get like a A-.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Good job, Brighton. Very good. I love that you can dissect that because I couldn't. I mean, I recognize brands, but, that's not my strength. And certainly it is absolutely yours. I really love hearing you talk about it.
Thanks. It was, I think it's really fun. And all of the strategy and different pieces behind the brand,
Yeah.
I personally find absolutely fascinating. And I think it just drives the whole piece, the whole message behind it.
Very cool. Yeah, so this is a good partnership. You'll create the brand, and I'll put it in front of 60,000 people.
Fantastic.
Love it.
Yes.
And you mentioned Fiverr, and that's an interesting concept to me. I think it's great if you just have a small task, but a lot of times, in my opinion, and this might just be me, I'd rather somebody that is in my town, that knows the city I'm working in, that is familiar with my brand already, working on my brand.
Right.
Do you find a lot of people are using Fiverr for?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I think it is that or people who are offering to do Canva. And I find that very difficult as well. I like to tell people, I had done the math once, and you can get templates on Canva and all that good stuff, but there's some like 50,000 templates. And then, if you take the amount of businesses that are registered in the country, you have roughly about 8,000 businesses using one template. So that's not unique at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
And so, you can make tweaks to it or something, but you're not going to stand out in the market that way. And that's not, I feel like, again, that's just a disservice to the business you've worked so hard for. You deserve something unique and custom, and that's going to ultimately help you. But I do find that is, I think that comes from maybe a lack of education in just what a brand can and should do for you. I think it's just on a checklist. I start a business, got to have a logo. So people want to pay $50 and go to Fiverr and get a logo.
It's that instant gratification too.
Yeah.
I can log on to Fiverr and have 7 people send me a logo, and I just have to pick the one I like the most.
Yep.
Just like that.
Do they do the work without getting paid?
No, they'll get paid. But the thing is, especially where I have a big difference, there's no strategy work in it either. I fully believe that a brand should be fully steeped in strategy. It should be what you like, what represents you, but also what's going to attract your audience. Typically, I think when you go onto Fiverr for something like that, you say, I like purple, I like frogs, make me a logo. And they send it back to you in a couple of days. And that is that's it. You either like it or you don't.
What kind of business wants purple frogs? I don't know.
You'd be surprised.
Psychedelic business?
I'm sure you've seen lots of things in your time. I'm sure. Did you work on the Hillary's House logo and design?
Yeah.
Oh, that business and that branding is my favorite.
It was so fun to do. But first of all, talk about a business. Her and her husband are just wonderful people, and I just love what they're doing. But also they allowed so much freedom. And for me as a designer, and I got to have a lot of fun. I mean, they're actually a great example. They had a logo to begin with. This is where a lot of my clients come from. They have a logo maybe done by a small freelancer or Canva or something like that. And I actually went, when I was researching, reversed image searched their logo, and there were 4 others that were nearly the same. And I was like, well, there's a great example of why you should get a new one now.
Yeah, I mean, I love that business. You did great with that business. They do great on their own. Talk about, personal touches, right? Like you go to Hillary's house is a dog care, dog boarding, dog daycare, in-home business, and they're incredible. You go, my dog came home with art the other day. My dog made a painting, and Bruce's painting is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Just saying.
Please tell me you put it on the fridge.
It's on the piano, but yeah.
It's lovely.
And it is. I mean, just the personal touches from that business alone. And then working with someone local, I didn't know about Hillary's house until McKenzie was telling me about her. And, we got to working together. And it's just the personal touches and the personal connections when you work with someone local in your community is just huge.
Yeah.
It's just huge. All right, let's switch gears for a second. I want to hear about your favorite spots in Folsom. Devera, favorite happy hour in Folsom?
Back Bistro.
Back Bistro.
Back Bistro is my favorite happy hour, and I feel like it's a kind of a hidden gem happy hour. Not a lot of people know how great their happy hour is, but it's delightful. Goat cheese balls and a couple glasses of bubbly, and I'm solid.
There you go. Are you in their bourbon room ever?
Not yet.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You should try that. All right. What about you? I know we've got young kids at home. We probably aren't doing a ton of happy hours, but you got to have one.
But I'm probably going to have to say Willamette. Not that it's always happy hour, but I am a member there, so
The view.
that makes sense.
Love that business. Love that business. And then your recent branding workshop you had at Big Wave Coffee House.
Yes.
Shout out to them. Matcha latte with the ube soft top.
Oh, yeah.
The best. The best. What are other good coffee shops?
I really like World Travelers.
Yep.
And just recently I was at the Chantel Cafe, and they're really good.
So fun to meet a girlfriend for coffee. So fun.
My go-to is Big Wave, so
It
for
really
sure.
is. It really is. Mindy does great work. What else? What are there any other tidbits about marketing that you have in that brain of yours, doing it for many, many years, that you want to give to businesses?
I think just really taking a look at how and why you started your business and who you want to be reaching. I think, and also just remembering that it is important to take a whole approach, like a holistic approach to the whole thing. I have a lot of clients that come to me and they say like, well, I don't know, my Instagram's dipped and this and that. And I typically, at least the businesses I work with, especially like B2B service-based businesses, Instagram is not where you're getting clients.
Yeah.
So great, have a presence. It should be consistent, do it well. But if you're not being an influencer, there's way more strategy to marketing and branding than like I said, just showing up on social media.
Yeah. And I think figuring out kind of what your goals are and what your, how you're going to attribute success to everything you do.
Yeah.
If you're selling a product, likes on your Instagram probably isn't going to be how you measure success. Some sort of call to action, some sort of coupon code, that type of thing is how you measure. I was working with a client and it was an awareness campaign. And
So difficult.
it was tough. And this was back in my television days. And it was like a no drinking and driving campaign. And their goal, the way they measured success, is they wanted engagements, people to comment on their Instagram posts. And I just had to sit back and have a conversation with them like that's not how you need to measure this campaign. You measure this campaign by seeing less fatalities on the road, less accidents, and just overall impressions, eyeballs met, right? Like, what are people going to comment on your Instagram?
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah. I mean, so it's
Especially
interesting.
on a topic that's hard.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
difficult topic. That's not a fun thing to comment on.
Yeah. So I guess the point is make sure that your goals match the way you're going to measure success. A lot of people have misalignment there, and it leads to, they think something didn't work, and, maybe it was massively successful.
Definitely.
Yeah. What else? Devera,
I don't know.
you got more in that brain of yours. So you've worked in childcare. You're an incredibly patient human being.
Some would say that.
You have children with military backgrounds.
I do. I have.
Thank you for that.
My oldest son is in the Army. He just re-enlisted, went straight out of high school, and he's living his dream, loving life.
Love it. And you've worked in mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And you've worked in fitness.
Mm-hmm. A lot of assistant, sales, marketing, getting to do events and being out in the public and talking to people. And I'm really great in person.
Yeah. Well, someone with that kind of background is the perfect person to help with a magazine because every day that's who we're talking to. We're talking to, brand companies, marketing companies. We're talking to home improvement companies. We're talking, you name it. You have to be an expert in every kind of business. And I'm sure you feel the same way, McKenzie.
Yeah.
You have to be an expert in every industry in order to understand what makes them tick, what makes them work, and what success looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is what's missing from a lot of people in their businesses as well when they hire someone or hire, like for small tasks. That part is often missing. And I think then leads to just having content and deliverables that are maybe just misunderstood.
Perspective. All right. New business owner, you have one piece of advice you can give them. What is it? Just one.
Ooh. Okay. I think invest in the brand and the brand strategy. Nice. Whether it is you feel confident you can do it yourself or, I'm biased, say hire professional, but I think that it's going to just ultimately help you in the long run. It should be the first thing you do because it does encompass things that you should know about your business, that you should know about yourself. What are your goals? Who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to as your customer? I think a lot of people get into that and they say, everyone's my customer. That's not realistic for anybody. No business should have that answer. And if you do, you need to take a step back and do it again.
Yeah, it's funny. In TV, we use the term demographic, and a lot of people are reaching adults 25-54. That is not a target audience. That is a family reunion right there. I don't know that anyone needs adults 25-54 anymore.
Yes.
What about you, Devera? One piece of advice for a new business. I think I know what you're going to say, but let's see what you got.
Be in your community.
Yeah.
Invest in your community and how your community perceives you. Show up for your community, and they will in turn show up for you.
So how do you do that? How do you recommend doing that?
You participate in the hometown parades, and you, instead of just showing, if you're selling clothes, instead of just showing what's in your shop every day, show what you're doing around town. Go live at your favorite happy hour. Go live at the local networking event, at the parade. Show people that you're out there in the community.
There are some businesses in town that do that really well. I think of MTT does that really well.
She does it very well.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. Who else?
Adrian Blanco,
Yep.
Evangeline Scott.
Yep.
That's all I can think of off the top of my head, but they are very in the community. When you think of mortgage, you think of Evangeline Scott. When you post in Folsom Chat, where can I get my wedding ring sized or sell it now that I'm not married anymore? Adrian Blanco is going to be listed on there 50 times.
So are you both real active in Folsom Chat then?
Yeah.
I try to not be, but it gets juicy sometimes.
It does get juicy. I just like to go on and recommend people.
I like to go on and recommend people and then read through like the 300 comments that have nothing to do with me or my life. But I'm like, yeah,
It's
you're
so funny.
right.
Yes. Yeah. I like that sideline.
It's so funny. All the different opinions, though. I tell my son all the time, different opinions and different interests make the world go round.
Yeah.
That's what keeps
Gotta
it
have them all.
interesting.
Yeah, it totally does. Totally does. I think that's it for me. Do you guys have any other things that you want to add or say to Folsom or shout out?
I just love, thanks for having me.
course.
This is great. And I just love that I get the opportunity to work within the community too. Having worked corporate, having worked military, all the other things, I love to be able to work with the people I really want to support. And I think that's, again, about being in the community. And I think that's really strong here.
Yeah, I love that. Folsom is fantastic. Well, thank you both for coming on, and thanks for your contribution to Folsom and to the world with your military families and military backgrounds. And just being great human beings. I appreciate you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.
You got it.